Hello friends, welcome to our course Threat Hunting in Cyber World. So in the last part, we have looked at the entire threat hunting process wherein we have started with the hypothesis generation, then we have tested those hypotheses, automate those entire hypothesis process, and then operationalize the threat hunting process. So that's the threat hunting process which we have seen in the last part. So let's look at a threat hunting loop which is defined by company which is known as SQRL skill, and the main person behind this threat hunting research is Mr. David J. Bianco. So he has defined the threat hunting loop, which consists of four major categories. So the first process is creation of hypothesis. The second is investigation based on the tools and techniques which you have. Then you need to uncover any kind of new patterns and TTPs based on those, and then enrich or inform with the analytical part. So that's the process similar to our threat hunting process. This is a threat hunting loop which is defined by Skrill company and Mr. David Bianco. So the hypothesis creation, investigation based on the hypothesis, just discovering or uncovering any kind of new patterns or TTPs based on those investigation, and then enriching your analytics like automating the stuff. So that's the entire threat hunting loop which each and every organization needs to follow in order to make the threat hunting program a successful one. So let's move on to our next part, threat hunting techniques. So what are the various types of threat hunting techniques which we can use for performing the threat hunting operation? The first one is searching. So the use of searching basically is to write search queries. So basically if we have any kind of SIEM or any kind of log management solution or a threat hunting solution, we can use search queries, specialized queries based on the platform which you are using and based on the uh, output which we get. That's the manual threat hunting which we have already discussed in the previous part. So searching is one way of performing threat hunting. The other way is clustering. So clustering is basically a machine learning model which uses this algorithm named as clustering and advanced AI techniques to make correlation within the data, and then it defines the baselining, and then it points out any kind of anomalous behavior into your environment. So that's clustering for you. Next is grouping. Grouping artifacts together to identify any kind of anomalies. So grouping is basically grouping out a similar characteristic objects or similar characteristic things together, grouping them in an artifact together to identify any kind of anomalies into an environment. And last but not the least, stack counting. So stacking is like identifying like how many times each unique value of a row has occurred. Like this is what is, like I have said, like this is a way of anything which is getting deviated from baselining. So that is stacking, like stack counting. So for example, the least commonly accessed file or the least commonly accessed URL, something like that. So anything which is getting deviated from the baselining, that is called as stack counting. So that's a way you can count unique value of a row that occur, and that's the count to that specific value or object. So that's the various techniques of threat hunting which are used in day-to-day life by a threat hunter. The most common one being the searching one, which refers to the manual threat hunting, and clustering, grouping, and stack counting refers to the machine assisted or the automated one. Now, here is a pyramid of pain, which is again defined by Mr. David Bianco, and it defines a pyramid of pain with respect to the threat hunting approach which a person carries out. So the lower base of the pyramid of pain is much easier or trivial, you can say. And once you move higher up to a top of a pyramid, the pain continues to grow. So that's why it is known as pyramid of pain. And the topmost position is the most painful one if you need to identify any kind of anomalies using those techniques. So let's start with the base one, hash values. So as you know, the indicators of compromise or threat intelligence are very trivial to get based on the various research companies or based on the malware analysis person. So we can actually perform threat hunting using hash values, and it's a very trivial job. The next one is IP address. Now IP addresses are also a kind of easy way of getting into your threat hunting program using your threat intelligence or indicators of compromise. But yes, IP address can be modified. Even hash values can be modified. If you change a simple line of code of a program, the hash value gets modified. Even you can use multiple techniques to modify a proxy techniques or a proxy chain techniques to change your IP addresses. Next, if you move ahead in the pyramid, that's domain names. So another trivial or you can say a simple way of performing or hunting is using a domain name. But as you know, domain name can also be changed using DGA algorithms. Now, as we move ahead, it's more annoying. Network or the host artifacts. So that's basically artifacts related to the network or the host related activities, saying that this is a kind of anomalous, any kind of malicious connections to any kind of a malware IPs or something like that, or any kind of a host which is getting which is getting trying to communicate to other systems. Next are the tools. Yes, so that's a challenging part where we need to actually. So these are the tools, are the softwares which has been bring by the advisories to accomplish their task. Mostly this will be the things they bring with them rather than the softwares or the commands which are already installed on the system. So this would basically means any kind of malicious backdoors or rootkits in order to establish any kind of C2 connections with the botnet server. And as we move on to the top of the pyramid, that is TTPs, which is tactics, techniques, and procedures, which includes the entire way how adversary behaves, starting from the reconnaissance till your persistence, the reconnaissance persistence way, and then accessing good privilege escalations, persistence, and then remain all the entire technique of life cycle of an attacker. That's the tactic, techniques, and procedure. So that's the way where when you detect or respond at this level of pyramid of pain, you're not dealing with any kind of tools against the attacker, but you're directly behaving with the behavior of how an adversary behaves. So that's how a pyramid of pain works. So the lower is a much trivial or easy job, but as you move ahead of a pyramid or the top of the pyramid, the task goes more and more painful for us. And now is the threat hunting maturity model. So again, the source is from Squirrel Company. Here, as we move on from level 0 to level 4, that's where the maturity of a threat hunting team or a threat hunting in an organization depicts. So the initial level, which is known as level 0, relies totally on an alerting basis. So that's where maturity of a company which is having a threat hunting team or a threat hunting organization is very low as compared to actual threat hunting scenario. So they totally rely on automated kind of alertings, basically maybe from SIM or log management solution, where there is threat hunting at a very minimal level. As you move on to a higher level, which is known as level 1, your threat hunting is into a minimal level, which uses the threat hunting or a threat intelligence indicators of compromise to look out for any kind of anomalies into the environment. But as I have already stated, threat intelligence is not enough for performing threat hunting. Always there should be a proper and knowledgeable threat hunter to perform an effective threat hunting. So next level, which is level 2, a procedural, wherein you follow data analysis procedures created by others. So this is basically any kind of analysis or any kind of data analytics which is being performed by some other organization or some other researchers, and you incorporate those into your threat hunting program. Next is your level 3, which is innovative, wherein you create your own data analysis procedures, wherein you create your own you can say search queries, you can create your own analytical things, a predictive and a prescriptive way, wherein you can train your own threat hunting program into a very effective one. And last but not the least, the leading way, where your hunting maturity model is at the peak, where you automate the majority of the successful data analysis procedure. So that's how your initial to leading path follows. So basically, if your organization is in the initial or the minimal level, you always need to aim out for a innovative or a leading way of threat hunting maturity model. The process will remain the same. So if you're saying the leading model which automates the majority of the successful data analysis procedure, it basically means the way you assume the hypothesis, you tested it, and then you automate the task. That's what it is. And then you use the analytical way out of it, like machine learning or UEBA model as well into this, so that it would be a more mature with respect to a threat hunting program. So it's similar to the threat hunting process: hypothesis, generate it, test it, automate it, and operationalize the program. The last step, operationalizing, means that once you have operationalized majority of your threat hunting program, that's when you can reach out to the innovative or the leading one. So that's it for this part. I hope you're liking this video series. Thank you very much. Bye bye.